Hey guys, so it's me with a very odd tutorial, but mostly because one of my friends wanted me to do one. So I'm just going to be showing you guys my process of how I draw trees. So what I normally start out with is I sketch the outline of my tree first, and I normally do my trees lineless because I don't know, it's really hard for me to draw trees with lines, but I sketch it out first. And then just like adjust the size to whatever you need. I'm going to be showing you guys how I draw like normal trees and then pine trees and stuff. So with pine trees, I just divide it into 3 sections in the sketch, so that way it's easier for me to divide when I'm like coloring it and everything. And normally my sketches are really messy, but mostly because I know how I want my trees to look before I even start. So just resizing these, and then I make a new layer, and then I lower the opacity of the sketch layer, and I put the sketch layer on top. So that way I can use the lasso tool, and I outline the wood first. Like that. And it doesn't need to be perfect because trees aren't perfect, you know. And then I do the same thing with the pine tree, but with the pine tree I don't go all the way up because it doesn't really matter. And then I take my base color, and you can pretty much use any base color for the trunks of trees and stuff, but I like to use like not a warm brown, like more a neutral brown. And I use Nico Roll in the painting brushes because I like the texture that it gives for wood. And then I go in with the lasso tool again, and I select like the darker parts of the tree, and I just let it happen. I don't know, I don't really have any concise shapes. I just know that I like to leave texture in there and make sure it looks not flat, if that makes any sense. And then I go in with a darker shade of whatever I'm doing, and I lightly layer that on top. And this is all on one layer, by the way, at least for the bark. And then I go in with the lasso tool again, and I select highlight areas, which is pretty self-explanatory. And again, I just let it happen. I don't have any rhyme or reason to what I do. I just do what feels right. And this is just like this is just a general thing for any tree that I draw. It's just how I do it, and it's fun. And I actually enjoy it. But then I go in with a lighter color than the other two, and I lightly layer that on top as well. So I get some depth in there. It kind of looks like camouflage now that I think about it, but pretty much what it is, I guess. And then I go in with the lasso tool one more time with the trunk, and then I do really thin lines to make the lines of the trunk, again, which is self-explanatory. And I don't really worry about like the branches showing because I normally cover them with leaves, but I make sure to add some line variation in here, make sure everything looks cool. Again, no rhyme or reason, just lines. Do what you feel is right. And then I do the same on the pine tree. Sorry, I'm listening to an Emma Kenny video right now, because, you know. But, and then I go in with a dark color and a little more saturated, and I lightly layer that on top as well. And normally the entire trunk is on one layer, is how I like to do it, because I don't know, I just like the way it looks, even though it really doesn't make a difference. Less layers to keep track of. And then with the leaves, I make a separate layer and I put it behind the tree trunk. And you can see here that I go in with like little detailing to make it not so dead looking. And it's just how I add some depth to what I'm doing and shape and form and stuff. Because I don't like trees when they don't look like they have little leaves. So just a stylistic choice that I like to make. And I just do little like offshoots. But only for trees that aren't pine trees, if that makes any sense, or any other tree that doesn't have leaves like this. I typically tend to stay away from putting the little doodads on there. But as you can see, it just kind of adds a little bit more shape to it, and I like it. Personal stylization choice. And then I go in with a darker color, just like the tree trunks, and I pull a little maneuver. No rhyme or reason to what I do. Nothing, absolutely nothing. I just go in random spots and I select little tidbits here and there to fill in with a darker color later. And typically when I'm coloring trees, I like to use a green, like anything in the green to yellow area, but you can do this with any color if you're designing like a fantasy world or something, because, different colored trees are cool. But I go in with a different color, like a darker color on top, and it's basically just the base color and then darkened. And then I go in with the select tool once again, shocker, and I select some blobs here and there so I can fill them in with a lighter color. And I go in and select some little spots again to make more depth. But yeah, just amorphous blobs, pretty much, or whatever is to your liking. You can do this however you want to. I'm sure it'll work with anything. I also use the leaf technique with bushes and stuff, because bushes are basically just ground trees. But I also go in and I select more little offhangs to once again add a little something to it. And then I lightly layer a more yellowish green on top. And then I go through again so I can add a different shade because it's looking a little too flat for me right now. So I just kind of go in there to add some depth to it one more time before I put in a new layer. And then I make a new layer and I put it on top of the tree trunk and the other leaves so I can cover the tree trunk, and you can just select the remaining bits you don't want to show, and then I layer something on top, and then depending, like that's too yellow for me out of nowhere, so I just kind of blend it. And then with the pine tree, I'm just doing it on the same layer as the upper layer of my other tree. I do it in one big section, like so. And then I fill it in solid color with Nico Roll. And then when I'm building up my trees, I actually do a little layer thing. And I add some little shadows in there if possible. It's just how I differentiate the little bits. And you just follow along the little spikes and stuff. I'm improvising this, by the way. I am so sorry. I normally do not talk this long. And then I go in with a darker color to split them up. And then I take select tool and then I just make little spiky shapes on the different layers. And as per usual, we are going to be filling it with a lighter color, again with Nico Roll, because, you know, texture. I'm a texture bitch. And there it looks like it has dimension. So that's how I draw trees. Congrats, guys. Now you know how to draw trees like I do. Hooray. Merry Christmas, happy birthday. It's not very hard once you get the hang of it. Normally I struggle with doing the lasso tool stuff, but this is like one thing that makes me enjoy drawing trees, and I normally dread it. So it's just a fun little thing for me to do. And that's it for the tutorial. But yeah, that's what they look like. And this is a better quality version of what they look like. Nothing fancy, but they still look nice, I think so, and then you just shade to your liking. But if you put it all together, this is what it could look like.